Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show, Accountability Score Improvement. I am your host, Will.
And I'm the other guy, AJ.
So good to see you. So, again, we are back, and today we are talking comics again. We talked about the Ultimates last time. AJ, I don't think you liked it very much.
I think it was very interesting. And there were some good ideas that were executed interestingly. It was good
Okay.
to learn about. It was good to learn about.
Yeah, it was sort of a time capsule.
Was it well written? Well, you know.
But speaking of time capsules, can't talk today. Speaking of time capsules, I have another one for us. And AJ, you know what we're going to read. But we are reading Spider-Man, the original Stan Lee and Steve Ditko run. This is a collection of the first 2 years of Spider-Man, starting with Amazing Fantasy, and then just moving on from there. What I want to talk to you today about is basically the start of Spider-Man, like the first two issues, because the first two issues, it's already at a breakneck pace. Like, it is insane how much they cram in right away, and they just don't look back.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the original Tobey Maguire movie because that origin story moves so fast, and then it's like, oh, yep, now it's done. And then he's
Oh,
already graduated high school by halfway through the movie.
oh yeah, exactly. Like, the thing is, because I don't know how many of you know this, but Spider-Man did not start in a Spider-Man comic. He started in an anthology series that was basically like the Twilight Zone, but for comics, called Amazing Fantasy. And he shows up in Amazing Fantasy 15. And there's all kinds of different stories in there that are actually in this book. There's one of a grave robber who goes into a museum, and security guards chasing him, and then he hides away in a sarcophagus, and then he travels back to ancient Egypt. Or there's an alien somewhere, and there's some crazy adventure that goes with that. It's all just some random crap from the 60s. Also, under the Comics Code Authority, which was basically just a way to make things super clean back then. So you couldn't have people smoking or drinking or cursing or murder happening on the panels. You had to be very careful about what you could and couldn't put on. So Spider-Man comes at a very flashy and kitschy time in America. So that's kind of where we're setting everything. We're in 1962. The Vietnam War has not happened yet. we are in the Cold War, but JFK is alive, and
We haven't been to the moon yet.
Yeah, we have not been to the moon yet.
My parents haven't been born yet.
Yeah, my dad was born in 1963. Technically, Spider-Man is 1 year older than my dad.
Mine was born in 64, so 2 years older than my dad.
Yeah, we're young. We always talk about how we're old, but we're young.
No, we're old.
But yeah, we have the first cover of Amazing Fantasy. This came out on August 15th of 1962. And it says, introducing Spider-Man. And it has the iconic image of him swinging with a crook across the sky. And he says, though the world may mock Peter Parker, the timid teenager, it will soon marvel at the awesome might of Spider-Man.
When you said he was swinging with a crook, I imagined him with the Egyptian crook thing, and I was like, "What the? Why? Why does he have that?"
Because he gets all of his spider powers from the Spider God of Egypt.
It's like he's related to Moon Knight somehow.
Yeah. Something like that. But basically, because Stan Lee and Steve Ditko are basically just saying, well, this is going to be a one-off comic. No need to really worry about anything. They just begin just throwing things out. So Who is Peter Parker? He's a nerd. Nobody likes him. Everyone calls
Nobody
him
likes
a
nerds.
yeah, but they don't say nerd. They say things like bookworm and egghead. Just insults that were so much nicer back then.
So would you say that like Spider-Man was what made Marvel? Because like they had Captain America before that, and he was like big for like World War II and stuff. But like Spider-Man is definitely Marvel's like biggest franchise, really. Would you say that like he's kind of what like brought them to like become one of the big two, I guess, like that being like Marvel and DC?
I definitely think that. Now, there was like Iron Man and like the Fantastic Four and the Hulk and Ant-Man that like came out before him, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
But as far as like flashiness, oh yeah, Spider-Man. Because think about like the time that this is going on in. Like there's a big movement in like counterculture. Teenagers are learning to like rebel for the first time. And like kids don't want to see like some stiff like 30-year-old, some ancient old man in a suit.
Yeah.
Stan's whole idea is basically, well, what if we put a teenager in there and he has teenage problems?
Yeah.
By the way, his whole pitch is like, well, what if he has to miss out on a date, or he's dealing with acne, or he can't afford getting on the bus, By the way,
Yeah.
very few times does that actually go down. A lot of his stuff is just melodrama about like, can he get a girl or can he make money?
Yeah.
Like,
I heard, I think I saw some sort of interview from Stan Lee where he was like, yeah, I told everyone that I wanted to make him a teenager, and everyone was like, no, teenagers are sidekicks. You can't have him be like the main character. That's stupid. And then he did it, and everyone loved it because teenager was the target audience.
yeah, because here's the thing, you can imagine yourself as Spider-Man, and I think that's honestly, out of all the ideas Stan's ever had, that was pretty good. Now,
Yeah,
a lot
he's
of
also
this,
Spider-Man also might be the reason that nerds flock to comics, or like
right?
because Spider-Man's
He is
supposed to be
the
a nerd.
target audience. He is literally what everyone is reading this book is a nerd. Well, actually, we're probably more geeks. Nerds are more science-based, which is what he is.
Hey, I would just like to say that only nerds know the distinction between the two.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, it's if we want to get into the story, so we have Amazing Fantasy 15, and basically it starts out as literally the monologue is like, "Hey there, true believers, you like costumed heroes? Well, take a look at this mild-mannered nerd, this little bookworm, this little pussy-ass bitch.
He wears glasses and a sweater vest.
Yeah, naturally, me, Stan Lee, can relate." I think this is secretly, now that I think about it, considering Stan Lee's fashion, I think that this is a bit of a self-insert, honestly.
Maybe. Yeah.
Could be. But we start off and literally there's like a bunch of teenagers just hanging out. It's like, hey, y'all, you want to go down to the malt shop and go dancing after school? Sure thing. Do you think we should invite Peter Parker? Brainhead Parker? No way. That bookworm's old news.
I would just like to say that the one guy who was like, hey, should maybe we invite that guy? He might be one of the nicest jocks I've ever heard of.
Yeah. By the way, there are plenty of times when Peter in the series is invited to do something and he just out of hand like refuses, like completely is just like, screw you guys. I got more important things to do.
It's like that scene in like Meet the Robinsons where like Goob is like looking back at his life and he's like walking through a hallway and everyone's like, hey Goob, want to come over to my house? Hey Goob, you want to play video games later? And then he goes, everyone hated me.
That's exactly, you know what, to be fair, that's exactly what Peter Parker is like at the beginning, because he's a loser, but he also like has his Uncle Ben and Aunt May who out the gate are introduced, and it's great Americana. They're very loving, they're doting on him. Peter does great in school, he's a great scientist, but he never knows how to be social. Like he literally is like, Liz, I was wondering, are you up to something? And says, Peter, for the umpteenth time, you're just not my type. which
God,
is
no
just,
means no, Peter.
yeah.
She's not
Clearly
interested. Why are you interested, man?
yeah, clearly he's been asking multiple times. But we see what goes on is Peter Parker's at a science seminar, and they are just openly testing a radioactive ray. Just no coverage. Nobody's
It
wearing
was the
lead.
60s. They
It was,
didn't know any better.
I know it was the 60s, but that's why you can enjoy it, because this is like comic books at its finest. It's like, we're going to experiment on this radioactive ray. And suddenly, by chance, a spider comes down and is shot with both ends of a radioactive ray. And it says, accidentally absorbing a fantastic amount of radioactivity, the dying insect, in sudden shock, bites the nearest living thing at the split second before life ebbs from the radioactive body. So literally, this thing is like twitching and freaking out, and it just lands on his hand and by chance bites him. And he just goes, ow. just like, oh, that bug's kind of glowing. Oh,
Can you
I got a
imagine if
bit
it
of
was
a
just like,
head.
oh, fuck?
Yeah, he just freaks out like super. Well, here's the thing. I think everything would be different if he just told people, I got bit by a spider. What's gonna happen?
Cut off my head. Cut it off.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what would happen. But he's like, oh, my head, it feels so strange. What's going on? And he goes out into the middle of the road, and a car comes by, and he literally jumps up and out of the way onto a wall and sticks to it. So literally anybody walking by is just like, well, in a few weeks, I'm going to know that that's Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so weird kid sticking to a wall. Could it be that guy in a red suit sticking to a wall? Nah, that probably is not this related at all.
Yeah, so he begins like sticking to walls. Immediately, he realizes that he has super strength, and he does have a spider sense because he could sense that, the car was coming by. And he says, oh, wow, these powers are amazing. It must be from the spider. I got to find out what to do with these like new gifts. And pretty much immediately he uses it for money. Like he straight up.
Wouldn't we all?
Here's the thing. 15 years old. He's a nerd. What else is he going to do?
Get girls?
With spider powers, get real.
Wait, 15?
Yeah, he's 15 years old.
Oh my God. The
15-year-old. Here's the thing. We can say, maybe we'll say 17. Why not? If we want to be lenient. I think he's 15.
The 15 makes sense, but like knowing a couple 15-year-olds, that's terrifying.
Yeah. He basically gets the powers of a god within a day. But he stumbles upon a wrestling promotion, which basically says $100 to whoever can pin this big wrestler, Crusher Hogan. And he's like, whammo, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to run back home, put on a turtleneck, and then a pantyhose over my face, and I'm going to win that money.
Does he say whammo?
No, but there's something like that.
Yeah, this is definitely like the Burt Ward, holy casserole Batman era.
Like Gee Willikers, like that is like this era of comics. I say those things only because they are synonyms in comparison to what is being said.
I want to, if I could go back in time, I would want to see people use those in real life.
Oh my gosh. Here's the thing. I doubt people were really using it like all over the place. I think they just wanted to make whatever was on the script exciting to a child. So they just put words like whammo or Gee Willikers or holy halibut, like just random stuff. So anyway, Spider-Man, not Spider-Man yet, but Peter Parker is like, I'll try for the money. And the guy's like, okay, I'll go easy on you. And immediately, Peter Parker just overdoes it. He straight up just is like dodging all over the place. He's doing acrobatics, picks him up by one arm, jumps on a scaffolding, and hangs him by one hand. And is just like, do you give up yet? Do you give up? He's like, put me down. You're not human. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Like immediately he goes way too far.
Holy shit. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 15 years old, we're willing to forgive. But he wins the $100 and is noticed by a talent agent. a
Oh.
Yeah, he's noticed by a talent agent and basically comes up to him and says, "Hey kid, I see you just made some money making all those flips and tricks. How'd you like to be a real star? I can put you on TV. I can put you on the newspaper. I can put you on the radio. All kinds of stuff. Imagine Spider-Man cereal, Spider-O's, just all kinds of like promises he's making him. And he's like, "Oh boy, would I." So he runs home again.
Wait,
And
so
he
is
decides,
he known as Spider-Man at this point then?
No. He becomes Spider-Man in like literally two panels.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So he gets hired by this talent agent and he runs home and he does two things immediately. Number one, he decides, well, if I'm going to be on TV, well, I got to make a suit. So literally as almost an afterthought, he sews the Spider-Man suit on like page 5. Like it's already there. So one, he's a genius in design and a master at sewing.
As any 15-year-old is.
Yeah.
You remember.
Well, it was a different time. This was a baby boomer child. Dude, straight up, Spider-Man is a boomer, so he has those skills.
Oh no.
That's truth right there. When you think about it.
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
Yeah. He was born post World War II.
I don't like it.
Yep, but it's the truth. So he creates the suit, and then immediately he's like, well, naturally, flipping around and jumping isn't going to do anything. So I also need to create some sort of gimmick. Since I have the proportional strength and speed and powers of a spider, I need some webbing. So I'm just going to naturally invent web shooters. We get web shooters on the same page he makes the Spider-Man suit. We are cutting out the bullshit, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I looked at that page, and it said something about like being original, just like wet concrete.
Yeah, that's I don't even know necessarily because I don't even think I see it here, but it's definitely like,
at the bottom of the
page. I just made a web. I made some kind of web that somehow works. Yeah, he says, with some strong liquid cement at the end, I can pull myself up anywhere with my little web.
Yeah, that's definitely not how cement works.
Yeah. I think he's just a child and stupid, but also somehow the most competent person in the world. Like,
yeah, no, he's a genius, but he's a nerd, and everyone knows that, geniuses are nerds.
Yeah. And, he's got all these powers and he's having a great time. And by the way, earlier, I don't know if I said it, but he was very much like when he's getting bullied. And by that, I mean slightly harassed. He's like, they'll see. One day, they'll all see. One day, they're all going to kneel before me.
See, in today's world, a kid saying that means something very different.
Yeah, like, to be fair, sometimes I'm wondering, it's like, was Peter like on the road to becoming a school shooter?
I wasn't going to say it outright, but that's how Columbine happens.
Yep, but thankfully it was a different time. Like if you were having a tough time at school, you just took a walk and blew off some steam down by the docks. It was New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, now he's just like, wow, now that I have these spider powers, I'm making all kinds of money. I'm going to look out for number one from now on. Me, all the time, because I have these powers and I'm so great. And then basically he's at one of these shows, and of course the robber steals from the cash box, and a cop says, "Stop him, Spider-Man." And he's like, well, I'm not a hero. Literally, this guy has a gun and robbed you guys, so I'm not a crime fighter. You're a cop. You should do that. That's your job, actually. So he just screws off and is just like, well, time to go home. I'm doing great. And then he finds out that the same robber within the same night literally was like, well, I'm going to hit 2 places. So he not only hit like the Ed Sullivan Show, but he also hits a little house in Queens and shoots Uncle Ben.
Wait, he goes to his house?
Yeah, well, because I think he was just doing a home invasion, like a burglary. And Uncle Ben must have heard something and went downstairs and then gets shot.
Yeah, and with his dying words is like, with great power comes great responsibility. Also, like, who says that as like the last thing they say?
Oh, well, here's the
I think
thing.
it'd be like,
Everyone,
"I hurt a lot, Peter."
everyone attributes that line to Uncle Ben. In this original book, that's a footnote. That is not even like mentioned that Uncle
Really?
Ben. Yeah, Uncle Ben does not say "with great power comes great responsibility" in this book,
To just
but
go,
it is
oh,
one of the final lines
oh.
of the book. But anyway, obviously, Peter goes out to try and hunt the guy, finds him in a warehouse, realizes, but you're the guy I could have stopped at the promotion. Oh no, I'm so selfish. How could I be so stupid? So he hangs the guy up and
He hangs the guy?
he hangs the guy up with his webs. He doesn't kill him. He doesn't die like in the movie. Okay, so it's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, he he's basically just saying like, oh, it's all my fault. Oh man, if only I'd stopped him, Uncle Ben would still be alive, which is
Yeah,
like
and then
fair.
Robin Williams comes out and he's like, "It's not your fault."
Yeah,
It's not
it's
your
not your
fault.
fault, Peter.
No,
Peter, it's not your fault.
stop it! Shut up. That's what
Yeah.
Matt Damon says, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. But he just walks along, and this is where we actually get the line. It's not even like connected to Uncle Ben. He says, "In a short distance away, and a lean, silent figure slowly fades into the gathering darkness, aware at last that in this world with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And
Merely,
so a legend is born." Like,
merely a
literally,
prepubescent boy.
yeah, it's like this prepubescent boy is going to save us all. And that's the first ever story of Spider-Man. But the thing is, Spider-Man became so popular within like the next couple months. People are clamoring for that Spider character. They're like, "Hey, it's pretty cool. Is he going to come out with his own solo series?" And then Stan's like, "Yes, yes, he is. I'm glad you asked. That was the plan all along." Shifty eyes. But it's funny because it had such like a large response, like the amount of fan mail they had. I think I actually sent you a photo that when Spider-Man 1 like came out, like issue 1 of the Amazing Spider-Man, there's a little image of Spider-Man of saying, "Hey there, true believers. I know that we're getting a lot of fan mail here, but calm the fuck down. We're gonna respond to those in issue 2, okay?"
It's just a whole comic of Spider-Man being like, and this person says, "Please make more Spider." I agree. Just like him actually reading.
I'm glad
like
you said that, Timmy.
One of those like early 2010 like YouTube videos of like people actually opening fan mail.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
That would be awful.
Yeah. So basically, the whole thing is just ending with Spider-Man being depressed. He's just so sad because he's like, I am responsible for Uncle Ben being dead, which, to be fair, kind of, but also you couldn't have known, Peter. Don't carry that weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's 15 years old.
Nerd.
Yeah, he's just a little nerd. But literally, so Spider-Man 1, issue 1, literally starts with him throwing his costume across the room. It's just like, Uncle Ben's dead, and it's my fault. We literally start off where we finished on the last story. He's like, what am I gonna do? It's crazy that
what am I gonna do?
Yeah, it's like, man, I wish I never had these spider powers. Here's 5 panels about how I got my spider powers. And we do the origin
on Spider-Man.
Exactly, we do the origin. And he's like, and on top of all of that, Aunt May has to pay for rent and she's behind. I got to make some money fast. So this is going to be the running thing for like pretty much most of like his first year's run is how can Spider-Man make some effing money?
That is one of the things that I like about the Tom Holland. Sorry, this is so kind of a weird segue. Tom Holland Spider-Man is that like Aunt May is actually like believably young, because like in the comics, they're probably his like great aunt, if like in age at least.
They're like octogenarians. Like they are like in their 80s, it looks like. They look like the Crypt Keeper. Then again,
they're old.
yeah, then again, it was also like the 50s and 60s. So it's also possible that they were just like 50 years old and looking rough.
See, but like, people with kids get older faster because, they have to care for the kids. Aunt May and Uncle Ben never had any kids of their own
Yeah.
that I know of.
Yeah, and I don't think Peter was a big handful, honestly.
No.
There was probably some weird monologues where he would start saying like, they'll see, they'll all see.
And they're just like, just ignore that. He's just a kid growing up. His parents are dead, and we never talk about it because we don't talk about our feelings in the 60s.
Right. And they also haven't even established it. They're just like, and he lives with his aunt and uncle.
How does his parents die?
Are his parents even dead? Like, maybe they're hippies and they're beatniks and they left them.
Are they like spies like they are in some continuities for some reason?
Right. But yeah, so we start off and his first response to realizing that Aunt May has to like pay the rent, like, and the rent is overdue, he's like, oh my gosh. His first response is like, I'm going to have to, his first response is, I'm going to have to rob. I'm going to have to turn to a life of crime. But no, I can't do that. Not because it's wrong, but because if my Aunt May ever found out, it would break her heart.
Because I could kill Uncle Ben then.
Yeah. It's pretty much just like saying, I can't do that. You know what? I'm just going to do what was making me money. I'm just going to keep doing shows as Spider-Man.
I mean, I'm not going to tell Aunt May what I've been doing, but yeah. So he keeps doing like the shows with like the producer and stuff.
Yeah, and I guess this is the first time he's been paid like officially because he puts on a show. It's a great show. He's like swinging around. He's shooting webs. All kinds of
kid. Dang.
Right. But the promoter is literally like, all right, it's time to pay you, Spider-Man, but I can't pay you cash. For tax purposes, I need to write you a check. So who should I put it out to? And like, give me your name, essentially. And Spider-Man is basically like, put it to Spider-Man because nobody can know who I am. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that because you asked me to.
Didn't you want to show them at school?
Yeah.
Also, I don't think you can cash a check under the name Spider-Man.
Yeah, because when he goes to cash that check, the guy at the bank is like, do you have an ID or a social security card or anything that says that you are Spider-Man? Because otherwise, I can't cash this check.
But I'm Spider-Man.
But I'm Spider-Man, exactly.
See the mask.
Yeah. So as he finds out that he, in fact, cannot keep making money as just Spider-Man,
he could just say, you know what, make it out to Peter Parker.
For tax purposes. Yeah.
But my accountant.
He's not that smart. But basically, at the same time, I guess this is also the introduction of J. Jonah Jameson. He must have seen Spider-Man on the news, and he just starts typing about him. He starts writing and saying, he's a menace. What if all those stunts he does, what if kids try to mimic it? Or what if he's actually some just attention hog? Not like my son, the real hero, the astronaut. By the way,
like, doesn't he marry Mary Jane at one point?
No, that's the movie.
I thought he did in like the comics too. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm probably
Listen,
crazy.
Guys, there's so much continuity. We're starting at the beginning. At this point, it hasn't happened yet.
Yep. Miles Morales. That's right.
Yeah. So basically, not only can he not make money, he can't even book gigs anymore because Spider-Man is getting basically crapped on by J. Jonah Jameson for the first time. Like, this is the first time it's ever happening. And he's not just writing about it in the newspaper. He's also doing like lectures on like the street and in like colleges. He's basically Steven Crowder. He's basically that. He's like, Spider-Man's evil. Changed my mind.
It's like, it's like one of those. Yeah, it's like one of those people that like stands in the corner and just to make people angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does he care? I understand like writing articles about him and being like, hey, this man sucks. But like making it your life's goal is a little bit far for so far what's happened.
Yeah, you know what I think it is? I think they've explained it before. It's because he wears a mask. And J. Jonah Jameson does not trust people who wear masks, essentially. But like the weird thing about that is like he loves Captain America. I guess because everybody knows who Captain America is. But other than that, like it's like you have a real specific problem with Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. I like the stories where J. Jonah Jameson like turns out to be actually a decent guy.
Yeah, and that's that. There's plenty of stories like that that have been written, but basically, in this story, he's very anti-Spider-Man, but he's also getting press for his son, the astronaut, who is like, this is the middle of the space race, and they're just like testing stuff, you know. So
Mhm.
they're just testing like different shuttles and rockets and things like that. So Peter's depressed. He can't make any money, and he's just basically super sad. So he says, I know what'll cheer me up. I'll go watch a test flight in New York that is just going on, a NASA test flight.
Yeah, when they launched the Empire State Building into the sky.
Yeah, that's the real Manhattan Project.
Yeah, that's what that means.
It's
We
all
saw
rockets.
Oppenheimer.
So basically, yeah, like so Jameson's son, Jonathan Jameson, basically is at a test flight. He shoots off, and his shuttle is supposed to do something, but like basically a super tiny part, but very vital part of the shuttle comes off. It just comes off, and now the shuttle's moving all over the place, and it's just continuously, I guess, moving around like the tri-state area because it's literally just it has no like rocket propulsion, but it's just moving around. Clearly, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko are not scientists,
I'm
or
imagining a balloon when you let the air out.
it's basically drawn like that because it's doing like loop-de-loops and like beelines, you know, like
It's a blimp.
it's going. Jonathan basically says, "This flashing red light can mean only one thing. I've lost the heart of the guidance device." It's like, really, the flashing red light? It wasn't the fact that you're doing like 50 loop-de-loops at Mach 6?
No, I don't feel that at all. I've been trained because I am an astronaut.
Yeah. So basically, they tried a couple of things. I think at one point they tried to like fly a plane above it and drop like a lead net to like ground it. So I guess they tried that at a certain point, and they tried a
60s
couple of
logic
other
is-
things. But basically, Spider-Man is like, huh, nobody's able to stop this. I bet I can. And so he suits up. And this is something I actually kind of like. And I don't think they showed it a lot until this. Spider-Man, they show him like putting on his like costume, and they make it very clear that it's kind of like there's multiple pieces to it. There's the pants, there's a shirt, there's a mask, and there's gloves. Like it's not like a onesie, you know, like they make it very clear all the different parts of the suit and how he has to put on each one.
I
don't
love
know.
that scene from Homecoming where he's like, he has like the Stark version of it, so it like to his body, but like he still has to like be like, oh God, oh yeah, okay, I'm Spider-Man now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically what it is. So he suits up and he, I guess, swings by NASA where J. Jonah Jameson is also there. He's like, give me back my son. What's going on up there?
Spider-Man kidnapped my son.
He's basically like being that kind of dick about it, where he's basically goes in and he's like, what's going on? And this colonel is basically like, well, we don't have any way to get up there, but if we can get up there, we can attach this vital piece onto the shuttle to help it land. And Spider-Man's like, I'll do it, and just snags it and is like, hey, wait there, you menace. And so
how dare you solve our problems for us, you
Yeah.
stupid bastard.
So he starts swinging away, and the next few pages are baffling. So Spider-Man makes his way onto an Air Force base and starts
As one does.
like just swinging around. A soldier tries to stop him. It was like, halt. He's like, no time for that. Webs him up like on the run, and basically off panel convinces a pilot to fly into the sky and basically float above the shuttle. How he convinces him, I have no idea. But
Also, this is happening over the space of like half an hour at least.
yeah, listen, 45. It took a while
Like,
to
they're
get the suit on.
and somehow have not crashed into a building in the middle of New York yet. And
Yeah,
they're like, fly me up, dude. Fill up your rocket. And he's like sitting there, like waiting for them to fuel the rocket because that takes like an hour. And he's like,
yeah.
all right, man, like, come on, let's go. The pilot's like, dude, like, I have to have fuel or like we will crash too. And he's like, well, man, I don't know. Also, like, I'm defying. Should I be doing this? Yeah, no, totally. I'm a dude in a mask that broke into an Air Force base. You should do what I say.
Well, you seem to be a pretty straight shooter there, Spider-Man. I don't believe what J. Jonah Jameson says. Yeah, you seem all right by me.
Yeah,
so
definitely couldn't be a stupid little nerd under there.
Yeah, he's like, the fuck you say?
Launches.
Yeah, he's like, great, now I gotta wait for another pilot. But
fuels his own plane.
Exactly. But he's like flying around, and the way they draw it, it looks like they're like high up. Like it's not just like they're at high altitudes. Like you can see the entire countryside of New York. Like it is like rolling hills. So clearly they're pretty high up, and Spider-Man is just hanging on the plane and just like, well, we're only gonna have one shot at this. And you can imagine, by the way, this shuttle must be moving like super fast, and he is standing on top of a jet. Never mind how he gets on there, but he webs it.
Hey, it's got sticky feet.
Yeah, he webs it, attaches himself to the shuttle, and immediately just goes just like jet stream pulled. And he's like, thank goodness I got spider strength so that I don't rip my arms out of socket, because the way it's moving and the way that it's drawn, it seems like you should be torn in half, which I guess just shows Spider-Man is truly the best of us.
Yeah. I mean, he does have super strength. It's just not really shown that much.
I know, but I think it's interesting because even though we're joking about it, Spider-Man is probably the most adept superhero just off of like feats alone. Issue 1 of his comic, he is like taking on a super fast like experimental space shuttle, holding on for dear life at high altitudes, no oxygen mask, and he's just taking it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he has, like you talked about, like every nerd's dream is to be like Spider-Man, including myself. Like it's awesome, but it's not because like a lot of superheroes, like they had to like train to do this. Spider-Man just gets these powers and he's amazing at them.
Oh yeah, he's just God-given, like, because it's destiny. He is chosen for this.
Right. Like even Captain America, like he still goes through like combat training. Yes, all of a sudden he's super strong and can do all these cool things, but like that doesn't make him like an amazing fighter. It just makes him super strong. Iron Man has to like make his own suit. Batman has to like train for months on end in the tundra. Like Spider-Man is just like, yeah, I got bitten by a spider and now I'm awesome.
Yeah, no, he's just naturally good at everything. So he is able to attach the thing to the shuttle they needed, like the special component. And thankfully, a parachute activates and they land safely. And Spider-Man's like, well, all in a day's work. I better get out of here because I also like raided an Air Force base. But he basically takes off his clothes and his thoughts, man, I can't wait to see what Jameson says now. And basically is just said, Spider-Man, true menace, tries to damage a experimental test flight. And it gets so bad. At first he's like, what? And then enough people start believing that he's a menace that there's a literal wanted poster for him. He's wanted by the FBI. Literally, he becomes America's most wanted within issue 1. And he is just distraught.
Just get a different costume. They'll never figure it out.
Yeah, you just become the man spider. Just you could just flip it around.
Just instead of like Spider-Man, just become like Praying Mantis Man and still do your backflips and stuff.
Right, the grasshopper. But he literally it's so funny because there's like an artist's rendition saying wanted, cautious, he is dangerous. Report him to the nearest FBI office. Spider-Man, reward for his capture. Like
Yeah.
literally the government like Spider-Man is immediately a public menace because he is wanted by the US effing government.
I mean, in this world, there are other people with like superpowers and stuff. But in our world, if a person with superpowers popped up, like real superpowers, of course the government would immediately get involved.
Oh yeah.
They'd be like, no, that person is either like our prisoner or our guy.
Yeah. Which is, I think, actually, now that I think about it, pretty nuanced for the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time it was just like, well, spandex hero, thanks for the help. No,
Yep.
straight up, Spider-Man literally cannot get a leg up throughout most of his original run. Because
Or
he's
any
literally
of
like,
his runs.
right, he's literally like, everybody hates me. Which I think is
Yeah.
great because he's also a child. Like, he's a child doing all
Yeah.
of this. So he's like sobbing and just like in shock of like the world is not fair. But that's the first story in issue 1 of Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. The second part of it is basically saying, well, I can't do shows anymore. How am I going to make money? Oh, I know. I'll join a crew like the Fantastic Four. So already we have a crossover. He's
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
yeah. So he's like, I'm going to join the Fantastic Four. They'd be lucky to have a member like me on the team.
Isn't it like canon that like him and Johnny are like somewhat best friends?
Yeah, that happens later on, but literally
Right.
they are like the same age. I think Johnny's like maybe slightly older and in college, but honestly, he is right up there. But Spider-Man's idea is like, I know, I'll make money because the Fantastic Four, they have their own building, they have their own foundation. Clearly, they must be like making some kind of like payment, somebody must be making money off of it. And the thing is, he's wrong. The Fantastic Four is a non-profit organization, and they basically can only pay for like all their money goes to science because Reed is a science man. It's like, okay, but clearly not because you have some kind of stipend to afford the building you live in and food.
Yep. Like there's gotta be something.
Like, come on. But he basically goes straight to the Baxter building, tries to get in, can't. So he says,
You guys
well,
think we can be the Fantastic Five for a little bit? You know?
yeah. So he sneaks in as Spider-Man, webs across, and he's like, I'll just kind of get in and I'll introduce myself and it'll all be good. And so immediately as he's walking around, he triggers the alarm to let them know that he's there. It's a silent alarm, but he's just like, he gets into an open window. He's like, hey there, chums. Crazy thing. You should really watch out for all these windows that are open. Somebody could just hop in somewhere. And then immediately he's trapped in a glass case because the Fantastic Four are just minding their own business, but they're just wondering, what is he doing? Is he trying to break in? Sue says, why didn't he get an appointment? And the thing is just like, probably because he's a dumb idiot like Johnny. Probably because he's a teenager. He's a stupid teenager, I think is what he says. Which I think, wow, just really great deduction there.
Yeah, like how did you figure that out? That was really good, Ben.
Yeah, Ben Grimm is the first man to really kind of hone who Spider-Man is. And
Just
they don't
looks
even
like it
mention it.
sizes him up body shape wise. I'm like, he's like, that boy has not grown.
Yeah, he is like 5'7". He is a short man. But basically,
there
they
are some
trap
people
him.
that'll be very mad at you for saying that.
Oh, hush. But they trap him in this case. He escapes. And the first instinct of the Fantastic Four is to fight him because literally Spider-Man is just like, hey, what are you doing? Ow! Like he's like getting like punched by the thing. And he actually, again, this shows that Spider-Man is very capable within his first run. He tosses the thing across the room into the Human Torch. Mr. Fantastic is like, well, hey there, young man, and tries to like grab him with his hands, webs his elastic hands, And Reed is like, ew, what is this? Does this come out of you? Like,
Is that come out of your butt?
yeah. And then Sue, like, tries to one turn invisible, but then says, I know, I'll lasso him with this rope. You know, the classic tool of the invisible woman, the rope.
You could do both.
Yeah. You could just put him in an invisible bubble, you know, because you're the invisible woman, but that's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But he honestly, Spider-Man kind of like kicks the crap out of the Fantastic Four, and he basically is saying, like, whoa, 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 hey, guys, the only reason I came here is I want a job. I want to make money. I want to be a superhero and, you know, be successful and have a career like you guys. And then Reed is just like, oh, no, man, we make like zero money, which I think is kind of a lie because a nonprofit still makes money and is able to like usually pay its people. But he's like, all of our money goes into scientific inventions and stuff like that.
Also, Reed, you're basically the Jetsons. You can create a technology and sell it.
Yeah. But I guess but Reed's a dick. Literally.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man is just like very upset. He's like, what? Are you joking me? And he's like, and everyone's like, yeah, well, sorry, man. And the thing's like, yeah, you're kind of stupid, man. Why'd you come here? And he's like, boo, I don't need you guys. I'm leaving. And the Fantastic Four is like, wait. Like they feel bad.
But yeah, Reed, going back to like Reed is a dick. One of my favorite like things that I've seen online where it's like, man, I'll be the Invisible Woman. I'll be the Human Torch. And Ben's just like, well, I'll be the Thing because that's what everyone calls me. And Reed just goes, I'll be Mr. Fantastic. And it's like it's like nothing stays more consistent than Reed's inability to read a room.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like he's just like, I'm the best. I have the biggest fucking swinging dick in this room. Which I guess like,
oh, poor Peter. And Reed just like, I don't, was that, whoa, who is that guy?
Literally, like they were just like, oh, that's too bad. I wish we could have helped him. And everyone's just like, well, never mind that. Hope he's doing well. So instead, we move to the first costumed villain Spider-Man ever faces, the Chameleon.
That's right. Yeah.
And the Chameleon is stealing plans from American scientists because it's the Cold War, and he works for the Russians.
Doesn't the Chameleon have like the ability to like basically like change his face?
Yeah, well, he's a master of disguise.
Right. Like it's not like a superpower, but like he can. So why does he have like a costume?
He doesn't really. He just kind of has like some equipment. Like he's a spy. Like so basically he's a spy. He can dress up like anybody. Like it's very like Red Scare. Like they could be anywhere. They could be stealing our secrets. And what he does is he steals like some precious science. It's very vague what he actually steals, but what he reads in the paper is that Spider-Man is a menace. So he's like, I know what I'm going to do. People already hate this fucking nerd. I bet he's a nerd. I bet he's a bookworm.
Oh, I could just tell that man used to wear glasses.
Ooh, I know he walks around and he talks about test tubes.
I'm sure he's got a nice haircut.
But what he does basically is he says, I'm going to frame Spider-Man for crimes that I'm doing.
Not a bad idea, honestly.
To be fair, like, here's the thing. If you blamed Kanye for something, most people would believe you. So, same thing for Spider-Man. Like, if you blame somebody who's already hated for something, chances are you got a fair chance of getting away with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So, he has some kind of weird machinations, and he decides that he's going to contact Spider-Man. And he's going to say, Spider-Man has the powers and instincts of a spider, so I'll send him a message that only his spider senses will be able to pick up. So I guess he sends like a Morse code at the frequency that a spider would be able to hear.
What?
And he basically, his message is calling Spider-Man. Meet me on the roof of the Lark building at 10 tonight. It will be
That's
very profitable for you.
I will say that's very like Superman. That's very Superman coded.
Right. They're being very, very loose and fast about what Spider-Man can do at this point. So apparently he can also communicate and understand at the level of a spider. So he can hear those frequencies. So basically, the comedian says, Spider-Man, meet me at this building. There's some money in it for you. And Spider-Man, not knowing
What that means.
what that means, just like, well, I could use some money. I can't, turn that down. So at the same time, the chameleon at the same building decides to dress up like Spider-Man and rob the place.
Why did he need
And
Spider-Man to be there if he's going to dress up like Spider-Man?
well, because he's planning to make a getaway and then Spider-Man show up, and then basically they are going to try and deal with Spider-Man while he is making a quick getaway.
Okay.
So not a bad plan. Not a bad plan. It's competent. It is a competent thought if we're going in the realm of comic books.
Yeah.
But basically, Spider-Man, the chameleon dressed as Spider-Man, comes in and webs people with a web gun. He has like a little gun of like web shooter that he has.
So everyone can make it at this point.
Because listen, anyone can replicate webs. It's like in Ratatouille. Anyone can cook. Anyone can create a web shooter. Except his aren't like wrists. They come out of like a pistol. So Spider-Man makes it to the building right as the chameleon is escaping in a chopper. And he's like, wow, kind of weird that chopper's getting away at the same time. And he gets to the roof. And they're like, look, there he is. It's Spider-Man. He just stole all those special plans from the U.S. government. And he's like, oh,
I'm
nuts.
literally holding nothing.
Yeah. And he's
Clearly,
like,
I don't have it.
Yeah, he's like, me? Steal something? Wait a minute. And he's like, I think I was set up. I think I've been had.
Wait a second.
Yeah. So he's just basically like, I don't know what this is all about, but the cops who start chasing him, he webs them up. And he's like, I bet it's that helicopter. I got to make my way towards it. Oh, it's really far. So then we actually get, yeah, it's really far. It's like really far. And I'm just learning how to web swing.
It's like I'm all the way over here on this side of the couch, and the remote's like on the table 5 feet away. Try to use the force. Doesn't work. That happened to me last week.
What he does, it's actually kind of cool. What he does is he decides he's going to slingshot himself. This is the first time that we ever see the slingshot. Is again, Spider-Man issue 1. So he slingshots himself across the city because the way that it looks like he is traveling multiple miles with this slingshot. Like he is going a long distance, multiple city blocks.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yes, it's very exciting. But he not only does this, but he's like, I'll slingshot my way, and then I'll land towards the helicopter and create a parachute out of webs. Yes, I can also create parachutes out of webs. And then what I'll do is I will make my way onto a boat, which I will commandeer instead of just making a boat out of webs, because apparently I can do anything with my webs.
Right, because they at this point in comics, they have to have the character say every step of his plan, because as we know, the rule in movies and stuff is tell, don't show.
Yeah. So apparently, yeah, and they show very much. But what he does is he makes his way by some kind of boat that he commandeers towards a clearly Soviet submarine. Like it has like the hammer and sickle on it. Like there's no
bright red.
Around. Yeah, it is bright red. And what he does is first he webs up the hatch so that Chameleon can't get in. And then he gets basically into a helicopter chase with him and webs himself to the helicopter. The helicopter does some whirly birds and Spider-Man
crashes into some people and they die.
Yeah. and I'm paraphrasing, but Spider-Man rips the door off its hinges with his bare hands of the helicopter and basically says, "End of the line, you commie son of a bitch." Like, he's basically like, he calls him like, "End of the line, you commie." Like, and he's just like, oh my gosh. Like, Chameleon is frightened because this man is doing horrifying things. Again,
Yeah.
if you can do the things Spider-Man can do in the real world,
That's
you
a
are a
monster.
demon. Yeah. You know, J. Jonah Jameson, he's not all wrong.
Not all wrong.
No.
Still a douchebag.
Yeah. So he captures the Chameleon and he brings them back. And he's like, "Hey, guys, I didn't steal it. Look at this guy. He clearly has a Spider-Man costume. So arrest him." And then the Chameleon, like, pulls a switcheroo, throws a gas grenade, goes into the building. He's like, "Yeah, I'll slip into another disguise. Yeah. You won't be able to stop me." So he dresses up like a police guard. But then, this is, again, kind of playing with the rules very early on what Spider-Man can do. He says, "I know what I'll do. There's a certain tingle I get, a spider sense, if you will, when danger's
Peter
around."
tingle.
Yeah, they call it a tingle. Like, but he says, like, "I'll use my tingle to find the culprit somehow." Yeah,
Just doing, like,
exactly.
sonar.
Yeah, it's like a Geiger counter. It just
Or one of those metal detectors.
yeah, that's basically what happened. And he finds him. It's like, "He's over there." And Chameleon turns off the lights, and he's like, he tries to web him, but he's like, "Dang it, I'm out of web shooter fluid."
I will say the spider sense is an excellent plot device to get them out of any jam that they write themselves into.
Oh, it's a perfect MacGuffin. It basically is precognition. It's like the Force. He has the Force.
Yeah.
Like, he has all, like, the parts where you can, like, sense danger. Like, he can dodge bullets, he can move around, he knows what's going on. But yeah, this is like, he tries to web up the Chameleon, he runs out of web fluid. And unfortunately, for him, there's a switcheroo that goes down. I think it's funny because it's the first time that they acknowledge, "I ran out of web fluid." So now, in the next issue, we're going to establish that I need, like, a utility belt with, like, extra cartridges so I don't run out. So it's, like, kind of reasonable. It's smart.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
it's like, these are the details that I think kind of set Spider-Man apart at first. Because, like, you don't usually think about, like, how many batarangs Batman had, you know?
First try.
Yeah, first try. But no, he finds the Chameleon using his spider sense in the dark, so I guess it also counts as, like, night vision. So he finds him, turns on the lights, but there's a scuffle, and Chameleon, as the guard, tries to convince him it's the Chameleon dressed up as Spider-Man again, and all the cops are like, "Get him!" And Spider-Man is like, "Okay, screw this. You guys go deal with this commie." So he literally swings away. It's like, "You know what? Screw you guys. Not my problem anymore. I'm going home."
I'm going home.
Exactly. So he literally leaves the scene and basically is like, well, I guess that really was Spider-Man, considering that he just did all those flips and climbed up a wall. Oh, that guard right there has his clothes torn, and we can clearly see a Spider-Man outfit. That must be the Chameleon. Man, we really misjudged Spider-Man. Wish we could apologize, but Spider-Man's already swinging away, going, "Just you'll see. You'll all see."
Oh, see.
Yeah. So, needless to say, the world is always kind of crapping on Peter Parker at this point in time. Like, he's literally running away at the end. That I find it kind of funny that 2 issues in a row, it's him running away into the night. It's like, "Nothing turns out right. Sob. I wish I had never gotten my superpowers."
The Fantastic Four said no.
He said I can't get paid.
And Chameleon was just, like, really, really tricky. It was really hard.
I had to fight communism.
I had to fight communism, and I made a red costume because I'm fighting the red, not because I am the red.
Yeah, that could be a tie that he wears red. But the book basically ends with like the Fantastic Four reading. It's just like, yeah, wow, that what a crazy adventure he seemed to have gone on. Maybe we should have helped him. It really seems like Spider-Man is having a rough time. And they kind of lean into this thing of like, well, time will only tell. Is Spider-Man a hero or is he destined to become a villain and a menace? Da-da-da-da-da. Like it's like a weird trail off of like, okay, that's kind of a cool teaser back then of like, is Spider-Man going to be tempted to be selfish and give up responsibility, or is he going to do the right thing? By the way, most of the time so far, he's only done the right thing because he wanted to clear his name or he thought it would be lucrative.
He's 15.
Again, yeah, he's a teenager, but I think it's interesting because he is doing heroic stuff. He is doing the right thing, but a lot of it is kind of self-serving at the start.
Is there a story where Spider-Man, like maybe like an All Swords Worlds or something, like where he like becomes like a real villain?
I'm sure there is. Listen, the what if column of comics has all kinds of options, but yeah, I find this interesting because this Peter Parker is way different than like the Peter we know because he's incredibly young, he's incredibly selfish, he's very high strung, he's very much like, well, what am I going to do for money? My aunt, we can't pay for rent. Am I going to have to rob? No, I could. Like he's always like one step away. He's almost too willing to like rob people or like become a burglar with these powers.
It might be fun, but I should.
But what would my aunt think? Like it would break her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I like because also in some of the other stories, we won't get into them today, but a lot of his stuff is like, oh, gee, Willikers, I'm going to have to make some money. And this is where in the next issue, they start going like, I can start taking pictures of these crimes going on because he
That's
fights the
right.
Vulture. And that's where like you get like the first photos of Spider-Man because they're starting to charge like out the ass for him. So I don't know. They set up a lot right away. Like it's not like Batman where like you kind of have to wait for like Robin and all those other things to like come in. Like it's pretty much right off the bat. Spider-Man, Uncle Ben, Aunt May, J. Jonah Jameson, like everything is there. Pretty much everything that is Spider-Man is there right away. The only thing is that he's kind of just like he's just kind of like a little shit because he's a little boy.
Yeah. He's a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been in high school knows that freshmen are freshmen.
Yeah. Tell me you wouldn't try to make money with spider powers.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
By the way, good for him because he's also like America's most wanted right now. I didn't realize that until I reread this, that the FBI, like the FBI of granted the 1960s, but the FBI has a hit out on him. Like basically says wanted for questioning.
Yeah. They pull off the mask and they're like, "You're a child. You're a child.
And
We can't make you a soldier. It's not legal."
Yeah, it's like you. He seems a little bit like a nerd. Fuck you say?
He seems a little bit like a little bitch boy.
Yeah.
What?
Like
What?
again.
Yeah, that little bitch boy. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, Peter Parker's like personality is very like aggressive because I do think it's funny how much because it's like he was a nerd and he was bullied. It's like, were you? It feels like you were just kind of like you were harassed a little bit, but like
Well, to be fair, every kid thinks that they were bullied at that age. Some of them were.
yeah,
Not gonna take that. But like, there are a lot of kids where it's like this one kid was like mean to me once, and so basically, I'm the victim, like for everything.
exactly. And he's basically like just hanging out, and everyone's like, who needs a bookworm like Peter Parker when you have a hunk like Flash Thompson?
Who isn't like who is just like a huge dick.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Again, they're not even dicks. It's like a normal amount of dickishness. Like if this was written today, like the bullies would be like pieces of shit who like abuse people and like actually physically assault them. In this, it seems very low stakes. It's more like a real bully where like they just give you a lot of shit and
Yeah.
you can't really do anything about it.
I mean, look, I know like a lot of stories about like bullies being super popular and stuff. If someone was actually like a really mean person in real life, people aren't friends with those people anymore.
Yeah.
At least from my experience.
Yeah.
Like there are people you can be a little bit of a dick and like still have a lot of friends and still be popular. But like if you're a huge asshole, people are gonna be like, I don't like you.
Yeah, it dies out after a while. But yeah, I don't know. But Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy 15, and Amazing Spider-Man #1. I would say pick it up. I would recommend that
Oh, yeah.
if you're up for like spending like $20, this
Yeah.
is a book for you if you want to like go back in time and see where Spider-Man started off, because it is a honestly fun read.
It's very 1960s. Like the Ultimates that we looked at last time, that was just like, well, you can shit on it, make fun of it because like it's supposed to be, modern as in 20 years ago modern.
Right.
But like this is kind of like a period piece. Like, yeah, there's some like kitschy stuff about it, some stuff where it's like, all right, what the fuck are you doing? But like I grew up on like the old Batman TV show, which came out at like the same time.
Yeah.
It's the exact same vibe. It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
same thing.
This is grounded compared to the 60s Batman. Like, because 60s Batman is like, I'm going to use pseudoscience, old chum. Like the way he like solves riddles.
It's like, I'm going to
Only
use
an
the Bat computer, though, because computers aren't real.
Yeah, because only an insane person could be Batman. Spider-Man is at least like, oh, I could see how this kid is, connecting A to B here.
Yeah, but like Burt Ward Robin is just like, holy bats, Batman, holy.
Precisely, old chum.
There's literally a one of my favorite scenes from that is he's fighting a bad guy called the Bookworm, which is just a nerd.
Oh God, yeah.
He's just a nerd, but like all of the villain's henchmen are always like very themed after the villain. So all of his henchmen wear just like super nerdy glasses, and they're like about to get into it where like Batman and Robin are going like the wham, bang, and before they start, they're like, all right, let's fight. And then Batman goes, wait, gentlemen, please take off your glasses first. And then he looks at Robin and he says, never hit a man with glasses, Robin. And the henchmen are like, oh, of course. How could we forget? And then they just beat the crap out of them. And
wham,
it's like, you just left the glasses on, they wouldn't have hit you.
Yeah, it's a perfect strategy. But yeah, final thoughts on
I think
Spider-Man?
it's interesting because like we've all seen the Spider-Man origin story at this point. If you haven't, you've really been living under a rock. And a lot of the elements are like the exact same.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that like Uncle Ben doesn't say the actual words, with great power comes great responsibility. Like it's pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah. And honestly, crossovers were happening way sooner. Like immediately, like Spider-Man meets the Fantastic Four. Later on, I'm pretty sure he meets Iron Man and like literally the Hulk at some point. Like the amount of people he's meeting in his time is honestly super impressive. Like I'm pretty sure at some point Iron Man in like the first Avengers book is flying by, like seeing Spider-Man. It's like, hey there, kid. He's like, and Spider-Man's buzz off. Like
like one of those like Wolverine moments from that one Days of Future for X-Men First Class when they like see him in the bar and he's like, fuck off.
right. He's like, ooh, it's cool. Because he said a word.
He swears.
Yeah. and now that's just going to be an entire movie. But which I am excited for. But
It's gonna be
yeah,
fun.
I'd say pick it up. It has a good camp to it. It's honestly kind of subversive from like what you would read today, because it definitely feels like they're trying something, and something that hadn't been done before up until that
Yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great period piece too. Like when you actually like watch it and look at it, it's like, yeah, this was the 60s. Like this is what people thought was like, this is how they thought things worked, you know,
Yeah.
like with the shuttle or with radiation or like cameras. Like they all like thought like this is how the world works, because the world was a little bit smaller.
Yeah. And still better than the Tobey Maguire movies.
How dare you?
My hot take: Spider-Man 2 is okay. Spider-Man 1 and 3 are terrible movies.
Okay, anyone who's watching this, shout out to all our viewer. Honestly, you guys need to tell AJ that he is wrong and help me out here.
I will. We should do a whole episode about this. Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire is dog shit.
Okay, that's it. Next episode, I think we should just, both of us are going to watch the original Spider-Man movie. We are going to talk about that shit.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
I disagree.
The
And
pacing is terrible. Peter Parker is not likable in the slightest. MJ isn't likable in the slightest.
Watch yourself, boy. You know not what you say. But you know what? We're gonna make that our next episode now, because I'm gonna have my say. I'm gonna have my day in court with you.
It's bad. You just have nostalgia. That's all it is.
You know what? This seems like a conversation for another time. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us today. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. We certainly enjoyed ourselves. So remember to check this book out for yourself. Definitely recommend. I'm Will.
I'm AJ.
And keep reading. Read good books like this. Have a good one.